You ever get that feeling when you're scrolling through Netflix or flipping channels, that feeling of déjà vu? Like everything is somehow connected? Well, you're not imagining things. The world of media is a whole lot smaller than it looks. So let's pull back the curtain and find out who really owns the stories we love.
No, really, take a second. What was it? Something you just had to binge all weekend? Or maybe a blockbuster that completely blew you away in the theater? Okay, you got it in your head? Perfect. Now, your first thought might be, the director, maybe the actors, or that studio logo you see in the opening credits. But honestly, the real story of who owns what you watch, well, it goes way, way deeper than that. I mean, think about it. If you're a fan of the Avengers, a Star Wars fanatic, or you grew up with Harry Potter, guess what? The money you spent on that movie ticket or that streaming subscription, it's almost certainly funneling back to just a tiny number of massive parent companies. So what do we call these media behemoths? That's where this term media conglomerate comes in. And I know it sounds super corporate and maybe a little dry, but stick with me, because it is the key to understanding who's really pulling the strings behind what shows up on your screen. So yeah, let's take a closer look. So what is it, really? Well, a media conglomerate isn't just one company doing one thing. No way. It's a gigantic parent company that owns a whole collection of other companies. We're talking film studios, TV networks, radio stations, streaming services, you name it. It's all tucked away under one massive corporate umbrella. And because of this structure, these companies have immense power. I mean, they're diversified across all kinds of platforms, which gives them a truly global reach. They share resources, which saves them a ton of money. That's a business concept called economies of scale. And all that size and all that money, it translates into some serious economic and, even political influence, all controlled from one central spot. Okay, so that's the what. We get the concept. Now let's get to the who. Let's actually put some names to these giants. Who are the major players really running the show today? And here we go. You're going to recognize pretty much all of these. Let's start with Disney. It's so much more than Mickey Mouse these days, right? They own Marvel, Lucasfilm, that's Star Wars, Pixar, ABC, ESPN. The list is huge. Then you've got Comcast, which owns NBC Universal and the massive European broadcaster Sky. And Warner Bros. Discovery? They control everything from HBO and CNN to the entire Warner Bros. Movie catalog. It's just a staggering concentration of iconic brands under a few roofs. But hang on, the game is totally changing. It's not just the classic Hollywood studios anymore. The tech companies have crashed the party and are now some of the biggest players out there. I mean, look at Netflix. They're not just a place to watch stuff. They're a full-blown production house. And Amazon, they've got Prime Video, they bought the legendary MGM movie studio, and they own Twitch. And of course, you can't forget Alphabet, the parent company of Google and, you guessed it, YouTube, which is literally the biggest video platform on the planet. And make no mistake, this is not just a Hollywood thing. It's happening everywhere. Take Nigeria, for example. You have DAR Communications, which owns both AIT Television and Ray Power FM Radio. Or the Silverbird Group. They're in TV, radio, and they own movie theaters. It's the same pattern of consolidation happening all over the world, just adapted for local markets. Okay, so we've named the names, we know who they are. The next big question is, how? How do they get so big and, more importantly, stay so dominant? Well, it all comes down to a pretty specific playbook, built on a couple of really smart and powerful strategies. There are two key strategies here, and they sound technical, but the ideas are actually simple: horizontal and vertical integration. Let's break it down. Horizontal integration is basically buying your competitors. The perfect example, when Disney bought 20th Century Fox. Now, vertical integration, that's owning every single step of the process. You don't just make the movie, you also own the TV channels that advertise it and the streaming service that shows it. You control the whole supply chain from start to finish. Let's look at a real-world example, because it's kind of brilliant. So, Disney produces a new Marvel movie, step one. Now, do they have to go out and buy expensive ad time on other networks? Nope. They just advertise it heavily on their own channels like ABC and ESPN. Step two. And then, when the movie's theatrical run is over, where does it go to stream? You guessed it, exclusively on their own platform, Disney+. It's a perfect self-contained system, a closed loop where they control everything. All right, so this is all fascinating from a business angle, but why should you care? What does any of this actually mean for us, the audience, when we're just trying to find something good to watch on a Friday night? Why does it matter? Well, it's really a double-edged sword.
On the one hand, the good stuff, these massive companies have deep pockets, so they can fund the huge, high-quality, big-budget blockbusters we all love. But there's a flip side, and this is what a lot of people are worried about. When just a few companies control so much, you risk losing a diversity of viewpoints. It gets a lot harder for smaller, independent creators to break through. And there's a real danger that global culture starts to become, well, homogenized, where everything starts to kind of look and feel the same. And we have to talk about the money involved, because the scale is just mind-boggling. Get this. By 2026, the global ad revenue for this industry is projected to hit $1 trillion. That's a trillion with a T. This isn't just about cultural influence, this is about immense economic power. And an increasingly huge chunk of that pie is going to the big digital platforms. So, with all this power, all this money, all of it concentrated in just a few hands, it makes you wonder, right? Is anyone keeping an eye on these giants? Who controls the controllers? Well, that brings us to the world of regulation. And yes, there are supposed to be watchdogs. In the US, you have the FCC. In Nigeria, it's the National Broadcasting Commission. Think of them like referees, setting rules on who can own what. Globally, you have antitrust laws to stop any one company from becoming a monopoly. But, and this is a big but, there's a huge challenge. How do you regulate a global digital giant that operates everywhere at once? It's like trying to catch a cloud in a net. It's incredibly difficult for any single country to handle. And all of this leaves us with one final, really important question to think about. As these conglomerates keep getting bigger and that line between a tech company and a media company gets blurrier every single day, we have to ask ourselves, who ultimately gets to decide which stories are told and whose voices get heard? It is the central question for the future of everything we watch.